All right, let's cut through the noise and get straight to the point. Picture this. You walk into a room and every head turns. Not because you're trying to look like someone you're not because you're chasing some fleeting trend, but because you carry a presence that screams, I'm here and I own this moment. That's the kind of energy that stops people in their tracks. That's the kind of energy that stops me in my tracks. Age, it's just a number, a meaningless metric. If you think it defines you, you've already lost the game before you've even started playing. I'm Elon Musk, and I'm here to tell you something that might shake you up. I don't give a damn about how many years you've been on this planet. What I care about is the fire in your eyes, the unapologetic confidence in your step, and the audacity to live life on your own terms. Older women, you have something no one else does: experience, stories, and a resilience forged in the crucible of time. You think I'm impressed by superficial youth? Wrong. I'm drawn to those who break the rules, who defy the stereotypes, who look at society's expectations and say, screw that, I'm writing my own story. So let's dive into the first principle of how older women can attract not just me, but the entire damn world. Break the stereotypes, because age is not a barrier, it's your superpower. Let's be real for a second. The world loves to put people in boxes. Society tells you that once you hit a certain age, you're supposed to fade into the background, to stop dreaming big, to stop being bold. They say, oh, you're too old to start that business, or you're too old to take risks, or worse, you're too old to be desirable. Bullshit. I've spent my entire life ignoring people who told me what I couldn't do. When I started SpaceX, they said reusable rockets were impossible. When I launched Tesla, they laughed at the idea of electric cars taking over. When I dreamed of colonizing Mars, they called me a lunatic. You know what I did? I flipped them the bird and kept going. And that's exactly what you need to do. Older women, you've got something the rest of the world doesn't. You've lived through the storms. You've faced setbacks, heartbreak, maybe even betrayal, and you're still standing. That's not weakness, that's power. That's the kind of strength that makes people sit up and take notice. You don't need to apologize for the lines on your face or the gray in your hair. Those are battle scars, proof that you fought and won. Wear them like a badge of honor. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're at a conference, surrounded by people half your age, all buzzing with energy, chasing the next big thing. They're loud, they're flashy, but you walk in and the room shifts. Why? Because you're not trying to blend in. You're not wearing some trendy outfit that doesn't suit you or using slang that feels forced. You're not pretending to be something you're not. You're standing there, grounded, with a quiet confidence that says, I've seen things you can't even imagine, and I'm just getting started. That's the kind of presence that makes me stop and think, who is this woman? It's not about looking young, it's about living fully. When I see someone who's comfortable in their own skin, who owns their story without shame, I'm hooked. I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60, or beyond. What I care about is whether you've got the guts to live like you're still building something extraordinary. Let's talk about what this really means. Breaking stereotypes isn't just about rejecting society's rules, it's about rejecting the limits you've placed on yourself. I know it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, I'm too old to start over, or I've missed my chance. I get it. I've had moments where I doubted myself. When SpaceX's first three rockets failed, I was staring at bankruptcy, with the whole world watching and waiting for me to crash and burn. But I didn't stop. I didn't let the fear of failure or the fear of being too late define me, and neither should you. You've got decades of wisdom, of lessons learned the hard way. That's not baggage, that's rocket fuel. Use it. The world might tell you that youth is everything, but let me let you in on a secret. Youth is overrated. It's raw, untested, and often directionless. You, on the other hand, have perspective. You know what matters. You've got the clarity to cut through the noise and focus on what's real. That's what makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Now, let's get practical. How do you break these stereotypes in a world that's obsessed with youth? First, stop comparing yourself to others. I don't care how many 20-somethings are out there posting perfect selfies on social media. That's not your competition. Your competition is the version of yourself that's afraid to take risks, that's afraid to stand out. When I started Neuralink, people thought I was nuts for trying to merge human brains with AI, but I didn't care about their opinions. I cared about the vision. You need to do the same. Find your vision, your mission, your reason for getting out of bed every morning. Maybe it's starting a company, maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's mentoring the next generation or traveling the world solo. Whatever it is, make it big, make it bold. Don't settle for a life that's good enough. I'm not attracted to good enough. I'm attracted to people who aim for the stars, who dream so big it scares them, and then go after it anyway. Here's another thing. Don't let the world's obsession with appearances fool you. I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of yourself. Health is critical. I'm up at 5 a.m. most days working out, eating right because my body is the machine that carries my mind. But don't fall into the trap of thinking you need to look like a 5-year-old to be relevant. That's a losing game, and it's not what I'm about. I'm drawn to authenticity. When I meet someone, I don't care about their makeup or their outfit. I care about what's in their head, what's in their heart. Are you curious? Are you driven? Do you have a spark that says, I'm not done yet? That's what makes you magnetic. I've met women in their 50 seconds and 60 seconds who radiate more energy than people half their age because they've embraced who they are. They've stopped trying to fit into someone else's mold, and that's what makes them unforgettable. Let me tell you a quick story. A few years back, I was at an event and I met a woman in her late 50 seconds. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She wasn't loud or flashy, but she had this quiet intensity, this unshakable sense of purpose. She was running a startup focused on sustainable energy. And when she talked about it, her eyes lit up like she was about to launch a rocket to Mars. She wasn't trying to be young, she was just being herself. And let me tell you, that was more captivating than any superficial charm. She wasn't chasing approval, she was chasing a vision. That's the kind of woman who gets my attention because she's not living for anyone else's validation. She's living for herself, and that's power. So, what's the takeaway here? Stop apologizing for your age. Stop apologizing for your experiences. Stop apologizing for being you. The world might try to tell you that you're past your prime, but primes are for numbers, not people. You're not a statistic. You're a force of nature. I've built companies that people said couldn't exist. I've launched rockets that people said would never fly. And I'm telling you, the only thing stopping you from being extraordinary is the belief that you can't be. Break that stereotype, shatter it, walk into every room like you're the one who's going to change the game. Because when you do, you don't just attract me, you attract everyone. You become a supernova, lighting up the universe with your presence. That's your superpower, and it's time to use it. Now, let's talk about the mindset shift. This isn't just about rejecting external stereotypes, it's about rejecting the internal ones. You know that voice in your head that says, I'm too old to try something new? Kill it. That voice is a liar. I was 28 when I started Zip2, my first company, and people said I was too young to compete with the big dogs. Then I was 40 when I poured everything into Tesla and SpaceX, and they said I was too old to take those risks. Age is irrelevant when you're driven by purpose. Every single day, I wake up thinking about how to make humanity better, how to push the boundaries of what's possible, and you should too. Maybe your mission isn't to colonize Mars, but it's something, find it, own it, let it consume you. Because when you're consumed by something bigger than yourself, you stop worrying about trivial things like age or what other people think. Let's get one thing straight. Breaking stereotypes isn't easy. It's not supposed to be. If it was easy, everyone would do it. When I started SpaceX, I wasn't just fighting gravity, I was fighting an entire industry that said reusable rockets were a pipe dream. I lost sleep, I lost money, I lost friends who thought I'd gone off the deep end, but I kept going because I believed in the mission. You're going to face resistance too. People will tell you to act your age, they'll tell you to play it safe, they'll tell you that your time for dreaming big is over. Don't listen. Those people are just noise. They're the ones who gave up on their own dreams and they want you to do the same. But you're not them, you're you, and you've got a fire inside you that's been burning for years. Let it blaze. Here's how you start. First, take a hard look at your life. What's holding you back? Is it fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being enough? Write it down. Be honest. I do this all the time. I journal, I reflect, I figure out what's screwing with my head so I can get it out of the way. Once you know what's stopping you, you can start dismantling it. If it's fear of failure, remind yourself that failure is just data. I've failed more times than I can count, rocket explosions, production delays, you name it. But every failure taught me something. Every failure made me better. You've got failures in your past too, and they've made you who you are. Don't hide from them, use them. Second, start small but think big. You don't need to change the world overnight, but you need to start moving. When I founded Tesla, we didn't start with the Model S. We started with the Roadster, a scrappy, expensive, imperfect car that proved electric vehicles could be cool. It was a stepping stone. What's your stepping stone? Maybe it's taking a class, starting a side hustle, or just saying no. to things that don't serve you. Whatever it is, do it with intention. Do it with the mindset that you're building something epic, even if it's just the foundation. Third, surround yourself with people who lift you up. I don't waste time with naysayers. My team at SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, they're all in. They believe in the mission and they push me to be better. You need the same. Find people who see your potential, who challenge you to dream bigger, who don't care about your age or your past. Ditch the ones who tell you to slow down or be realistic. Realistic is code for mediocre, and you're not here for mediocre. Let's wrap this up with a challenge. I love challenges. They're what drive me. Here's yours. Today, do one thing that scares you. It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's signing up for that course you've been eyeing. Maybe it's telling someone you're starting a new project. Maybe it's just looking in the mirror and saying, I'm enough. Whatever it is, do it. Because every time you take a step outside your comfort zone, you're breaking the stereotype. You're proving to the world and to yourself that age doesn't define you. You define you. And when you live like that, you don't just attract me, you attract the kind of life you were always meant to live, one that's bold, fearless, and out of this world extraordinary. So go out there and be a supernova. The universe is waiting. All right, let's dive straight into the fire. You want to know what makes a woman stand out, what makes her magnetic, what makes someone like me stop and think this is someone extraordinary. It's not about charm, looks, or playing small. It's about purpose. Grand, audacious, world-shaking purpose. I'm Elon Musk, and I've spent my life chasing missions that seem insane to most people, building electric cars to kill the gas guzzlers, launching rockets to colonize Mars, wiring human brains to merge with AI. I don't do small, and neither should you. If you're an older woman looking to turn heads, to capture attention, to leave a mark, you need a purpose so big it scares you. Not some hobby to pass the time, not some checklist to feel productive. I'm talking about a mission that gets you out of bed at 4 a.m., heart pounding, ready to change the game. You've got years of experience, wisdom, and scars that make you uniquely equipped to take on something massive. So let's talk about how to live with a grand purpose, because that's the fuel that makes you unstoppable. The kind of woman who doesn't just attract me, but commands the respect of the entire damn universe. Purpose isn't just a buzzword, it's the engine of everything I do. When I started SpaceX, it wasn't about making a quick buck. It was about making humanity a multi-planetary species. When I poured my life into Tesla, it wasn't about building a car company. It was about accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Purpose is what keeps me up at night, what drives me to push through failures, lawsuits, and skeptics who think I'm out of my mind. And here's the thing, you don't need to be launching rockets to have purpose. You just need something that lights you up, something that makes you feel alive, something that's bigger than you. Maybe it's starting a business that solves a problem no one else sees. Maybe it's writing a book that changes how people think. Maybe it's mentoring the next generation to avoid the mistakes you made. Whatever it is, it has to be yours, not society's, not your family's, not your friends, yours. Because when you're driven by a grand purpose, you radiate an energy that's impossible to ignore. It's like a gravitational pull. And trust me, I noticed that kind of force. Let's get real about why this matters. As an older woman, you've got a superpower perspective. You've seen trends come and go. You've watched people chase fleeting things, money, fame, approval, and you know what lasts. You've got the clarity to focus on what's real, what's meaningful. That's not something a 20-something has. They're still figuring out who they are, still chasing shiny objects. You've been through the ringer. You know what's worth fighting for. That's your edge. When I meet a woman who's locked into her purpose, who's building something with intention, I don't care about her age. I care about the fire in her soul. I remember meeting a woman at a tech conference. She was in her 60 seconds, running a nonprofit to bring STEM education to underserved communities. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, but when she spoke about her mission, it was like the room caught fire. Her eyes were alive, her voice was steady, and you could feel the weight of her conviction. That's the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks because she's not living for applause, she's living for impact. So, how do you find this grand purpose? First, you've got to dig deep. I'm not talking about some fluffy self help exercise where you find yourself over a weekend retreat. This is hard work. It's about asking yourself questions most people avoid. What pisses me off about the world? What problem am I obsessed with solving? What would I do even if no one paid me, even if no one noticed? When I started the Boring Company, it was because I was sick of traffic in LA. It wasn't glamorous, it was tunnels, dirt, engineering, but it was a problem I couldn't stop thinking about. Your purpose doesn't have to be sexy, it just has to be real. Maybe you're furious about the lack of opportunities for women in your industry. Maybe you've seen too many kids struggle because of a broken education system. Maybe you've got a vision for art that changes how people see the world. Whatever it is, it's in you. You just have to be relentless about finding it. Here's the kicker. Purpose isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. When I started SpaceX, I didn't have a blueprint for colonizing Mars. I had a vision, a crazy one, and I started taking steps, hired engineers, studied rocket science, failed spectacularly a few times. Purpose is iterative. You don't need to have all the answers up front. You just need to start moving. For you, that might mean taking a risk, quitting a job that's draining you, signing up for a course that scares you, or pitching an idea that no one else believes in. I've taken risks that made my stomach churn. When I put my own money into Tesla and SpaceX, I was betting everything, my savings, my reputation, my future. But I did it because I believed in the mission. You need to find something worth betting on, something that makes the risk feel worth it. Because when you're all in, when you're obsessed with your purpose, you become a force of nature. Let's talk about obstacles, because they're coming. Purpose isn't a straight line, it's a battlefield. When I was building Tesla, we were months away from bankruptcy in 2008. The world was collapsing, and we were bleeding cash. People told me to give up, to cut my losses, but I didn't because I knew what I was fighting for. You're going to face your own battles. Maybe it's self-doubt whispering that you're too old to start something new. Maybe it's people in your life who don't get it, who tell you to play it safe. Maybe it's the sheer exhaustion of balancing a career, family, and this crazy dream you're chasing. Whatever it is, you can't let it stop you. I've learned that obstacles are just tests. They're the universe asking, how bad do you want this? And your answer has to be bad enough to keep going, no matter what. Here's how you make it happen. Step one, get clear on your why. Why does this matter to you? For me, SpaceX is about ensuring humanity's survival. Tesla is about saving the planet from fossil fuels. Your why doesn't have to be that big, but it has to be personal. Maybe you want to empower other women to break free from toxic workplaces. Maybe you want to create something beautiful that outlives you. Write it down, make it crystal clear. Step two, break it into pieces. Big purposes are overwhelming, so chunk it down. When I started SpaceX, I didn't try to build a Mars colony on day one. I focused on getting a rocket to orbit. What's your first step? Maybe it's researching your idea, finding a mentor, or just blocking out an hour a day to work on it. Step three, commit to it like your life depends on it. I work 80-hour weeks because I'm obsessed. You don't need to do that, but you need to show up every day, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel like it. Let's talk about the payoff. When you live with a grand purpose, something shifts. You stop worrying about what people think. You stop chasing validation. You become the kind of woman who walks into a room and owns it, not because you're loud or flashy, but because you're grounded in something real. I've seen it. I've met women in their 50 seconds, 60 seconds, 70 seconds who are building things, businesses, communities, legacies that make the rest of the world look small. They're not trying to impress me or anyone else. They're too busy changing the game, and that's what makes them magnetic. When I see a woman who's locked into her mission, who's so consumed by her purpose that she doesn't have time for petty drama or self-doubt, I'm drawn in. It's like watching a rocket launch. There's power, focus, and an undeniable sense that something incredible is happening. One more thing, purpose isn't selfish. It's not just about you. When you chase something bigger than yourself, you inspire others. Think about it. If you start that business, if you write that book, if you mentor that kid, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the lives of everyone around you. When I founded Tesla, it wasn't just about building cars, it was about showing the world that electric vehicles could be better than gas. Your purpose has a ripple effect. It pulls people in, it shifts perspectives, it makes the world better, and that's what makes you unforgettable. I don't care about your age, your wrinkles, or how many years you've got left. I care about what you're doing with the time you have. Are you playing small, or are you playing to win? Are you letting the world define you, or are you defining the world? So here's your mission. Should you choose to accept it, find your grand purpose. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be fully formed, but it has to be yours. Dig deep, ask the hard questions, take the first step, even if it's messy, even if it's scary. Because when you live with purpose, you don't just attract attention, you command it. You become the kind of woman who doesn't need to chase anyone because the world chases you. That's the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks, who makes me think this is someone who's going to change the universe. So go out there, find your mission, and let it consume you. The stars are waiting. Let's cut to the chase. You want to know what makes a woman unforgettable? What makes her stand out in a world obsessed with noise and flash? It's not about chasing trends, not about blending in, and definitely not about trying to turn back the clock. It's about confidence raw, unapologetic, unshakable confidence. I'm Elon Musk, and I've built my life on betting against the odds, on walking into rooms full of skeptics and saying, I'm doing this, and you can either get on board or get out of my way. That's the kind of energy that stops me cold. When I see a woman who owns her space, who carries herself like she's the architect of her own destiny, I don't care about her age or what society thinks she should be. I care about the fire in her presence, the kind of confidence that says, I know who I am, and that's more than enough. Older women, you've got a secret weapon, the kind of confidence that only comes from years of battling life storms and coming out stronger. So let's talk about why confidence is your ultimate weapon and how to wield it like you're launching a rocket to Mars. Confidence isn't about being loud or flashy. It's not about showing off or trying to prove something. It's the quiet certainty of someone who knows their worth and doesn't need anyone else to validate it. When I started SpaceX, the aerospace industry laughed at me. They said a guy with no rocket science degree couldn't build a company to compete with NASA. I didn't argue with them. I didn't try to convince them. I just went to work. I studied physics, hired the best engineers, and built rockets that changed the game. That's confidence, not needing permission, not needing approval, just knowing you're capable and acting on it. For you, as an older woman, confidence is about embracing every chapter of your life, the wins, the losses, the scars, the stories, and wearing them like armor. You don't need to hide your age or apologize for it. Those years are your proof of resilience, your evidence that you've faced the world and come out swinging. Let me tell you what confidence looks like to me. It's not the woman who's trying to dress like she's 25 or using slang that doesn't fit her. It's the woman who walks into a room and owns it, not because she's trying to impress, but because she's at peace with who she island. I met a woman once in her late 50 seconds at a tech summit. She wasn't the loudest person there, but when she spoke, everyone listened. She was a data scientist who spent decades in a male-dominated field, and she carried herself with this effortless authority. She didn't need to name drop or flaunt her credentials. Her confidence was in her posture, her words, the way she looked you in the eye and made you feel like you were the only person in the room. That's the kind of presence that grabs my attention, not because she was trying to, but because she wasn't. She was just being herself, and that was enough. Here's the truth. Society will try to undermine your confidence. It'll tell you that youth is the only currency that matters, that you're past your prime, that you should step aside for the next generation. I've heard that kind of noise my whole life. When I started Tesla, people said I was too inexperienced to take on Detroit. When I pushed for reusable rockets, they said it was a waste of time. I ignored them because I knew something they didn't. Confidence isn't about what the world thinks of you, it's about what you think of yourself. You've got decades of experience, of lessons learned, of battles won. That's not something to hide, it's something to lean into. Every wrinkle, every gray hair, every moment you've survived is a testament to your strength. Don't let anyone tell you that's a liability. It's your greatest asset. So, how do you build this kind of confidence? First, you've got to stop comparing yourself to others. I don't care how many influencers are out there posting filtered photos or how many 30 somethings are climbing the corporate ladder. That's not your race. Your race is against the version of yourself that's afraid to take up space. When I founded Neuralink, I wasn't trying to compete with every other biotech company. I was focused on one thing, building something that could change humanity's future. You need to focus on your own mission, your own path. Stop scrolling through social media and feeling like you're not enough. You are enough, more than enough. You've got stories, skills, and wisdom that no one else can touch. Lean into that. Second, take action. Confidence isn't something you think your way into, it's something you do your way into. When I was learning rocket science, I didn't sit around waiting to feel qualified. I read books, asked questions, and got to work. You need to do the same. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting when you'd normally stay quiet. Maybe it's pitching that idea you've been sitting on for years. Maybe it's just walking into a room with your head held high, even if you're nervous. Every time you act, you prove to yourself that you're capable. And every time you prove that, your confidence grows. It's like compounding interest, small steps add up to massive returns. Third, Own your failures. I've failed more times than I can count. SpaceX's first three rocket launches, disasters, Tesla's production ramps, nightmares, but I didn't let those failures define me. I learned from them, adjusted, and kept going. You've got failures in your past too, relationships that didn't work, careers that took unexpected turns, dreams that didn't pan out. Don't hide from them. They're not weaknesses, they're data points. They're proof that you've taken risks, that you've lived. When you own your failures, you take away their power to shame you. You turn them into fuel for your confidence. I'm not impressed by perfection. I'm impressed by resilience. Let's talk about why this matters. Confidence is magnetic because it's rare. Most people, no matter their age, are crippled by self doubt. They're afraid to stand out, afraid to be seen. But when you walk into a room with the kind of confidence that says, I've been through hell and I'm still here, people notice. I notice. It's not about arrogance, it's about authenticity. It's about knowing who you are and not being afraid to show it. When I see a woman who's confident in her skin, who's not trying to be someone else, I'm drawn in. It's like watching a star burn bright in a sky full of clouds. You can't look away. Here's a practical challenge for you. Today, do something that makes you feel exposed. Speak up in a meeting. Share an idea you've been holding back. Walk into a room and hold your head high, even if you feel like an imposter. I felt like an imposter when I started SpaceX. I was a software guy trying to build rockets, but I did it anyway. And every time I took a step, I got a little more confident. You will too. Start small, but start, because confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build one bold move at a time. Let me share another story. I once met a woman in her early 60 seconds who'd started a company to develop eco-friendly packaging. She wasn't a scientist or an engineer. She was a former teacher who saw a problem and decided to fix it. When she pitched her idea to investors, she didn't have the slickest presentation or the most polished pitch deck, but she had something better: absolute belief in what she was doing. She spoke with a clarity and conviction that made everyone in the room lean in. That's confidence. Not faking it, not forcing it, just knowing your worth and letting it shine. That's the kind of woman who makes me think um, she's going to change the world. One more thing. Confidence isn't just about you, it's about the impact you have on others. When you carry yourself with confidence, you give other people permission to do the same. Think about it. If you walk into a room radiating self assurance, you're not just elevating yourself, you're showing everyone else what's possible. You're saying, I'm here, I'm capable, and I'm not going anywhere. That's powerful. That's the kind of energy that inspires. When I push for crazy ideas like Hyperloop or colonizing Mars, I'm not just doing it for me, I'm doing it to show the world what's possible. You can do the same. Your confidence isn't just a weapon, it's a beacon. It lights the way for others. So here's the deal: stop doubting yourself, stop hiding, stop thinking you need to be younger, prettier, or anything other than who you are. You've got a lifetime of experience, a treasure trove of wisdom, and a strength that only comes from surviving life's chaos. That's your weapon. Wield it. Walk into every room like you're the one who's going to change the game. Because when you do, you don't just attract me, you attract everyone. You become a force, a phenomenon, a woman who doesn't just exist but dominates. So go out there and own it. The world's waiting for you to show up. All right, let's get to the core of what makes you not just noticed, but unforgettable. It's not about what you wear, what you say, or how many followers you have. It's about how you handle the chaos inside your head and heart. I'm Elon Musk, and I've spent my life tackling problems that seem impossible, building rockets that land themselves, cars that drive themselves, and neural interfaces that might just merge us with machines. But none of that happens without control, precision, and a mind that doesn't crack under pressure. If you want to stand out, to draw people like me in, you need to master your emotions. Older women, you've got an edge here. You've lived through enough storms to know how to stay calm when the world's falling apart. That's not just a skill, it's a superpower. Emotional mastery is what separates the players from the spectators, the leaders from the followers. So let's talk about how to control your emotions and own the game, because when you do, you're not just attractive, you're a force of nature that no one can ignore. Let's start with a hard truth. Emotions are messy. They're like a rocket engine, powerful, but if you don't control them, they'll blow up in your face. I've had my share of emotional turbulence. When SpaceX's first three launches failed, I was gutted. Millions of dollars, years of work, my entire vision for humanity's future in space, poof, up in smoke. I could have let the frustration, the fear, the anger take over. But I didn't. I took a deep breath, analyzed what went wrong, and got back to work. That's what emotional mastery looks like. Not pretending you don't feel, but choosing how you respond. For you, as an older woman, this is where you shine. You've been through heartbreak, betrayal, loss, maybe even moments where you thought you'd never recover. And yet here you are. That's not luck, that's strength. That's the kind of resilience that makes people like me sit up and take notice. Why does this matter? Because emotional mastery is rare and it's magnetic. Most people, no matter their age, are slaves to their feelings. They lash out when they're angry, crumble when they're scared, or cling when they're insecure. But when I see a woman who can stay steady in a storm, who can face chaos without blinking, that's when I know I'm dealing with someone extraordinary. I remember meeting a woman in her 50 seconds who ran a crisis management firm. She'd handled everything from corporate scandals to natural disasters, and when she talked about her work, she was calm, focused, almost serene. Not because she didn't feel the pressure, she just learned how to channel it. That kind of control is more captivating than any superficial charm. It's the kind of presence that says, I've got this, and makes everyone around her feel safe, grounded, inspired. Let's break this down. Emotional mastery isn't about shutting down your feelings. I'm not a robot, despite what some people think. I feel the highs and lows: joy when a rocket lands, rage when a project stalls, fear when I'm staring down the barrel of failure, but I don't let those emotions drive the bus. You shouldn't either. You've got years of experience navigating life's ups and downs. You've loved and lost, built and broken, dreamed and been disappointed. That's your training ground. Younger people might still be figuring out how to handle a bad day, but you've handled bad years. You know how to keep going when the world feels like it's caving in. That's your advantage. Use it. So, how do you master your emotions? First, you got to know yourself. I'm obsessive about understanding my own mind. I journal, I reflect, I dissect my reactions to figure out what's driving them. You need to do the same. When you feel angry, jealous, or insecure, don't just react, pause. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this? Is it fear of losing something? Is it a wound from the past? Get curious about your emotions instead of letting them run the show. I do this when I'm dealing with setbacks. If a Tesla production line goes down, I don't yell or panic. I dig in, figure out the root cause, and fix it. You can do that with your emotions too. Treat them like data, not destiny. Second, practice staying calm under pressure. I've been in situations where everything's on the line: billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, my entire reputation. The key is to breathe, focus, and act deliberately. You've got your own high stakes moments. Maybe it's a tough conversation with a boss, a family crisis, or a moment where you're tempted to lash out or shut down. Don't take a second, slow your heart rate, and respond with intention. I remember when we were racing to get the Tesla Model 3 production on track. The pressure was insane, investors breathing down my neck, media predicting our collapse. But I stayed focused, broke the problem into pieces, and solved it step by step. You can do that too. Whether it's a heated argument or a moment of self doubt, stay steady. That's what makes you a rock in a world full of waves. Third, let go of what you can't control. This is straight out of my playbook. I can't control what the media says about me. I can't control market crashes or supply chain disasters. But I can control how I respond. You can't control how people perceive your age, your looks, or your past. You can't control whether someone respects you or not, but you can control how you show up. Focus on that. Let go of the need to please everyone, to be liked, to be validated. When I launched Neuralink, half the world thought I was crazy, and the other half thought I was crazier. I didn't care. I was focused on the mission. You need to be the same. Let go of the noise and focus on being the best version of yourself. Here's why this is so powerful. When you master your emotions, you become a safe harbor. People are drawn to you because you're not swayed by every gust of wind. I've seen this in action. I once worked with a woman in her late 50 seconds who was a lead engineer on a SpaceX project. Deadlines were brutal, the stakes were sky high, and the team was freaking out. But she was calm, methodical, unshakable. She didn't just solve problems, she made everyone around her feel like they could handle anything. That's the kind of woman who gets my attention. Not because she was trying to impress me, but because she was a pillar of strength in a chaotic world. That's what emotional mastery does. It makes you a leader, a beacon, someone people trust and admire. Let's talk about the flip side. What happens when you don't master your emotions? You lose people's respect, you lose your own. If you're constantly reacting, snapping when you're mad, sulking when you're hurt, or chasing validation when you're insecure, you're giving away your power. I've seen it happen. I've worked with people who let their emotions run the show, and it's a train wreck. They're unpredictable, unreliable, and ultimately untrustworthy. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the one who's steady, who's in control, who makes others feel safe. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you the kind of woman who walks into a room and changes the atmosphere. Here's a challenge for you. Next time you feel your emotions spiking, whether it's anger, fear, insecurity, stop. Take 5 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what's driving this? Then choose your response. Maybe it's walking away from a pointless argument. Maybe it's speaking up calmly when you'd normally stay quiet. Maybe it's just reminding yourself that you're enough. I do this all the time. When I'm in a high stakes meeting and someone's pushing my buttons, I pause, refocus, and respond with clarity. You can too. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Because every time you choose control over chaos, you're building a muscle that makes you stronger, more powerful, more captivating. One final story. I once met a woman in her 60 seconds who'd survived a brutal divorce, rebuilt her career, and started a foundation for women in tech. She told me about a moment when she was at her lowest, when everything felt like it was falling apart. Instead of breaking, she got curious. She asked herself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? That curiosity, that refusal to be defined by pain, turned her into a force. When she spoke, you could feel the weight of her resilience. That's the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks, not because she's perfect, but because she's mastered herself. That's the kind of woman who owns the game. So here's the deal. Your emotions are yours to command. Don't let them run you. Use the wisdom you've gained over the years to stay steady, to stay strong, to stay you. When you master your emotions, you're not just attractive, you're unstoppable. You're the kind of woman who doesn't just play the game, but changes the rules. So go out there, take control, and show the world what you're made of. The universe is watching, and it's ready to be amazed. All right, let's get real and rip the band-aid off. If you want to stand out, to captivate, to make someone like me stop and take notice, here's the secret. Stop chasing, stop running after approval, attention, or validation. I'm Elon Musk, and I've spent my life building things, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, not by chasing what others think I should do, but by creating something so damn compelling that the world comes to me. That's the energy that draws people in, the kind of presence that makes you magnetic. Older women, you've got a unique advantage here. You've lived long enough to know what's worth chasing and what's just noise. You don't need to beg for attention. You've got the power to command it. So let's talk about how to stop chasing and start attracting, how to build a life so vibrant, so unapologetically you, that the world can't help but run after you. Because when you live like that, you don't just attract me, you become the kind of woman who pulls the entire universe into your orbit. Chasing is a trap. It's what people do when they think they're not enough. They chase trends, chase approval, chase people who don't see their worth. I've seen it a million times, and it's a losing game. When I started Tesla, I didn't chase the auto industry's playbook. I didn't beg Detroit to like me or try to copy their gas-guzzling SUVs. I built something different, electric cars that were faster, cooler, and better for the planet. And guess what? The world came running. Customers, investors, even the skeptics, they all wanted a piece of it. That's the power of attraction. It's not about running after someone else's validation. It's about creating something so valuable, so authentic, that people can't resist you. As an older woman, you've got the tools to do this. You've got the wisdom to know what matters, the experience to cut through the bullshit, and the strength to build a life that's yours. So why waste energy chasing when you can be the one who's chased? Let's paint a picture. Imagine a woman in her 50 seconds, maybe 60 seconds, who's built a life that's a masterpiece. She's not trying to impress anyone. She's not posting desperate selfies or fishing for compliments. She's out there doing her thing, running a business, creating art, volunteering for a cause she believes in, or just living with a kind of joy that radiates from within. When she walks into a room, she doesn't need to shout for attention. People feel her presence. They're drawn to her, not because she's chasing them, but because she's built something worth chasing. That's the kind of woman who catches my eye. I remember meeting someone like that at a sustainability conference. She was in her late 50 seconds, leading a project to develop clean water solutions for rural communities. She wasn't trying to network or schmooze. She was just focused on her work, her mission. And you know what? Everyone wanted to talk to her, to learn from her, to be near her. That's attraction in action. She wasn't chasing, she was leading. Here's the deal. Chasing sends a signal of scarcity. It says, I need you to validate me. I need you to make me feel worthy. That's not power, that's weakness. And I'm not drawn to weakness. I'm drawn to strength, to people who know their value and live it. When I started SpaceX, I didn't chase NASA's approval. I built rockets that were better, cheaper, and reusable. I focused on creating value, and eventually NASA came to me. You need to do the same. Stop worrying about whether people like you, whether you're enough, whether you fit in. Focus on building a life that's so full, so rich, so uniquely yours that people can't help but want to be part of it. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you the kind of woman who doesn't need to chase anyone because the world is already chasing you. So, how do you make this happen? First, you've got to shift your mindset. Stop thinking you need someone else's approval to feel good about yourself. I don't care what anyone thinks of me, not the media, not the critics, not the haters. I care about my mission, my work, my impact. You need to adopt that same relentless focus. Ask yourself, what am I building? What am I contributing to the world? Maybe it's a career you're passionate about. Maybe it's a family you're nurturing. Maybe it's a creative project that's been burning inside you for years. Whatever it is, make it your obsession. When you're so focused on creating value, you stop needing validation from others. You become the source of your own worth, and that's when people start noticing. Second, invest in yourself. I don't mean buying new clothes or getting a makeover, though there's nothing wrong with looking sharp. I mean investing in your mind, your skills, your growth. When I started Neuralink, I didn't know much about neuroscience. So I read, I studied, I surrounded myself with experts. You need to do the same. Take a course, learn a new skill, read books that challenge your thinking. As an older woman, you've got the advantage of knowing what you're passionate about. Lean into that. Maybe you've always wanted to code or paint or start a nonprofit. Whatever it is, dive in. The more you invest in yourself, the more you become someone others want to invest in. I'm not drawn to people who play small. I'm drawn to people who are constantly growing, who are unapologetic about becoming better every day. Third, set boundaries. This is huge. Chasing often comes from a lack of boundaries, saying yes to things you don't want, tolerating disrespect, bending over backward to please others. I don't do that. When I'm working on a project, I'm ruthless about protecting my time and energy. You need to be the same. Say no to things that drain you. Say no to people who don't respect you. Say no to anything that pulls you away from your mission. When you set boundaries, you're sending a signal. My time is valuable. My energy is valuable. I am valuable. That's attractive. That's the kind of strength that makes people sit up and take notice. I've seen women who've mastered this women in their 60 seconds, who've built thriving businesses or creative careers because they refused to waste time on things that didn't serve them. They didn't chase approval, they set the terms, and the world adjusted. Let's talk about the payoff. When you stop chasing and start attracting, something magical happens. You become a magnet. People are drawn to you not because you're begging for their attention, but because you're living a life that's compelling, authentic, inspiring. I've seen this in action. I once met a woman in her early 60 seconds who'd started a tech company after years as a stay-at-home mom. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just obsessed with solving a problem in healthcare tech. Her focus, her drive, her refusal to chase validation made her the center of attention wherever she went. Investors wanted to fund her, peers wanted to collaborate with her. I wanted to hear more about her vision. That's the power of attraction. It's not about running after people, it's about building something so extraordinary that they run to you. Here's the flip side. If you keep chasing, you'll always be one step behind. You'll be the one calling too many times, trying too hard, giving too much. That's not power, that's desperation. And desperation repels. I've seen it in business, in relationships, in life. People who chase approval lose respect. People who chase attention lose dignity. But people who build something real, something valuable, something true to themselves, they gain everything. They gain respect, admiration, influence. They become the kind of person others want to follow, not the other way around. Here's a challenge for you. Stop chasing for 1 week. Don't text someone just to get a response. Don't say yes to something you don't want to do. Don't seek validation from anyone, your boss, your friends, your family. Instead, focus on building something that matters to you. Work on that project you've been putting off. Spend time on that passion you've neglected. Live like you're the prize, not the pursuer. I do this every day. When I'm working on a new idea, whether it's Hyperloop or colonizing Mars, I don't ask for permission. I build it, and the world catches up. You need to do the same. Build your life, your work, your legacy, and watch the world come running. One final story. I met a woman in her late 50 seconds who turned her love of gardening into a business that designed sustainable urban farms. She didn't chase investors or beg for attention. She just built something incredible, beautiful, functional gardens that fed communities. And you know what? People came to her. Cities wanted her designs, investors wanted her vision. She wasn't chasing, she was creating. That's the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks because she's not living for anyone else's approval, she's living for her own. So here's the deal: stop chasing, build something extraordinary instead. Focus on your mission, your growth, your value. Live like you're the one worth chasing. Because when you do, you don't just attract me, you attract everyone. You become a force, a phenomenon, a woman who doesn't just exist but commands the stage. So go out there, stop running after the world, and let it run after you. The universe is ready to catch up. Let's get straight to the point. The world doesn't stand still, and neither should you. If you want to be the kind of woman who turns heads, who commands respect, who makes someone like me stop and think she's different, then you've got to keep evolving. I'm Elon Musk, and I've built my life on pushing boundaries, whether it's sending rockets to Mars, redefining transportation with Tesla, or diving into the unknown with Neuralink. I don't rest on my laurels, and I'm not drawn to people who do. What pulls me in is someone who's constantly reinventing themselves, who sees every day as a chance to grow, to learn, to become something more. Older women, you've got a leg up here. You've got the experience to know that standing still is death and the courage to keep moving forward. So let's talk about why reinventing yourself every day is the key to staying magnetic and how to do it in a way that makes the world take notice. Reinvention isn't about changing who you are, it's about becoming the best version of yourself over and over again. I've done this my whole life. When I started SpaceX, I wasn't a rocket scientist. I was a guy with a physics degree and a crazy idea. So I taught myself. I read textbooks, grilled experts, failed spectacularly, and kept going. When I jumped into Tesla, I didn't know how to build cars. I learned on the fly, surrounded myself with brilliant minds, and pushed through the chaos. Every project I take on, whether it's the boring company or X, forces me to reinvent myself, to learn new skills, to tackle new problems. That's what keeps me sharp, what keeps me relevant. For you as an older woman, reinvention is your secret weapon. You've got decades of knowledge, adaptability, and grit. You've already reinvented yourself through career shifts, life changes, maybe even reinventions you didn't choose. Now it's time to do it on purpose, with intention, because that's what makes you the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention, she demands it. Why does this matter? Because stagnation is the enemy of attraction. People who stop growing, stop learning, stop pushing, they fade. I see it all the time. People get comfortable, they settle, they think they've made it, but the world doesn't care about your past wins. It cares about what you're doing now, what you're building next. As an older woman, you've got an edge. You know life is short, and you've got no time to waste. You've seen enough to understand that resting on your achievements is a one-way ticket to irrelevance. I'm drawn to women who refuse to coast, who wake up every day hungry to learn something new, to take on a new challenge, to push their limits. I met a woman once in her early 60 seconds who just started learning to code. She wasn't doing it for a job, she was doing it because she wanted to understand the tech world her grandkids were growing up in. Her curiosity, her refusal to stay still, made her more vibrant than half the room. That's the kind of energy that pulls me in because it's the energy of someone who's alive, not just existing. So, how do you reinvent yourself every day? First, embrace curiosity like it's your lifeline. I'm obsessed with learning. I read voraciously physics, engineering, history, philosophy, you name it. When I started Neuralink, I dove into neuroscience books, even though I was starting from scratch. You need to do the same. Find something that sparks your interest, something that makes you think, I want to know more. Maybe it's artificial intelligence, maybe it's sustainable farming, maybe it's poetry or public speaking. Whatever it is, dive in, take a course, watch a lecture, read a book that's way outside your comfort zone. As an older woman, you've got the perspective to connect the dots in ways younger people can't. Your curiosity isn't just a hobby, it's a superpower that keeps you sharp and magnetic. Second, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is my old friend. SpaceX's first three rockets blew up or crashed. Tesla's early days, we were weeks from bankruptcy. But every failure taught me something, made me better. You've got failures in your past too, maybe a business that didn't work out, a relationship that fell apart, a dream that didn't pan out. Don't hide from them. They're your R&D lab. They're where you learn what works and what doesn't. Reinvention means taking risks, trying things you're not sure you can pull off. Maybe you want to start a podcast, but you're worried you'll sound awkward. Do it anyway. Maybe you want to pivot to a new career, but you're scared you're too old. Try it anyway. I was 40 when I doubled down on Tesla and SpaceX, risking everything. Age didn't stop me, and it shouldn't stop you. Every time you fail, you're not losing, you're learning. And that's what keeps you growing. Third, surround yourself with people who challenge you. I don't hire yes men. My teams at SpaceX, Tesla, and X are full of people who push back, who make me think harder, who force me to grow. You need the same. Find people who inspire you, who are smarter than you in some way, who make you want to be better. Ditch the ones who drag you down, who tell you to act your age or play it safe. I met a woman in her late 50 seconds who joined a mastermind group of entrepreneurs half her age. She wasn't there to blend in, she was there to learn, to challenge herself, to soak up new ideas. That group pushed her to launch a startup that's now disrupting her industry. That's the power of surrounding yourself with people who fuel your reinvention. They don't let you settle, they keep you moving. Let's talk about the payoff. When you reinvent yourself every day, you become a beacon of possibility. You're not just living, you're thriving. People notice that. I notice that. When I meet a woman who's constantly evolving, who's not afraid to learn, to fail, to start over, I'm hooked. It's like watching a rocket being built one piece at a time, getting stronger, ready to launch. I remember meeting a woman in her 60 seconds who'd gone from being a corporate lawyer to a documentary filmmaker. She didn't know much about film when she started, but she threw herself into it, learned the tech, studied the craft, took risks. Her films were raw, real, and powerful, and they got attention because she wasn't afraid to reinvent herself. That's the kind of woman who makes me think she's not just keeping up, she's setting the pace. Here's the flip side. If you don't reinvent yourself, you risk becoming invisible. The world moves fast. Technology, culture, ideas, they're all accelerating. If you're not growing, you're falling behind. I've seen it happen. People who stop learning, stop adapting, stop pushing, they fade into the background. They become the ones who say, things were better before instead of making things better now. That's not you. You're an older woman with a wealth of experience, a mind that's been sharpened by years of challenges, and a heart that's still hungry. You've got everything you need to keep evolving, to keep surprising the world, to keep being the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention but commands it. Here's a challenge for you. Learn something new today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Sign up for that coding boot camp. Watch a documentary on a topic you know nothing about. Pick up a book that intimidates you. I do this all the time. When I'm stuck on a problem, I dive into a new field, a new perspective, anything to shake up my thinking. It's how I stay sharp. You need to do the same. Make reinvention a habit, not an event. Every day, ask yourself, what did I learn today? How did I grow? What's one thing I did that scared me? Those small steps add up, and before you know it, you're not just a woman, you're a phenomenon. One final story. I met a woman in her early 60 seconds who'd spent most of her life as a librarian. Quiet, steady job, nothing flashy. But she had a passion for history, and one day she decided to reinvent herself as a historical fiction writer. She didn't know much about publishing, but she learned, took writing classes, joined critique groups, read everything she could. Her first novel was a hit not because it was perfect, but because it was alive with her passion, her curiosity, her willingness to start over. She wasn't chasing fame, she was chasing growth. And that made her magnetic. That's the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks because she's not done, she's just getting started. So here's the deal. Reinvent yourself every day. Stay curious, take risks, surround yourself with people who push you. Don't let the world tell you you're finished because you're not. You're a work in progress, a rocket under construction, a force that's only getting stronger. When you live like that, you don't just attract me, you attract everyone. You become the kind of woman who doesn't just exist but reshapes the world. So go out there, keep evolving, and show the universe what you're capable of. The stars are waiting for you to shine. Let's cut through the noise and get to the heart of it. If you want to be the kind of woman who doesn't just turn heads, but changes the entire game, you've got to stop orbiting around other people's stars. You are not a sidekick, a trophy, or a supporting character in someone else's story. You are the star bright, bold, and burning with your own light. I'm Elon Musk, and I've spent my life building things that defy gravity rockets, that touch the stars, cars that redefine the road, and ideas that push humanity forward. I don't live for anyone else's approval, and I'm not drawn to people who do. What pulls me in is a woman who lives like she's the center of her own universe, who creates a life so compelling it pulls others into her orbit. Older women, you've got the power to do this like no one else. You've got the wisdom, the scars, and the fire to live on your own terms. So let's talk about how to live like a star, not a planet spinning around someone else, because that's the kind of woman who doesn't just attract me, she captivates the entire damn cosmos. Living like a star means owning your life unapologetically. It means you're not here to please, to conform, or to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. When I started SpaceX, I wasn't trying to make NASA happy. I wasn't asking for permission to build rockets. I had a vision humanity as a multiplanetary species, and I went all in. That's what stars do. They don't dim their light to make others comfortable. They shine, and the world adjusts. As an older woman, you've got a unique advantage. You've seen enough of life to know what's worth fighting for and what's just noise. You don't need to waste energy trying to be someone's idea of perfect. You've earned the right to define your own perfection, to create a life that's yours, not a reflection of someone else's expectations. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes you the kind of woman who stops me in my tracks. Let me paint a picture. Imagine a woman in her 60 seconds standing tall, not because she's trying to prove anything, but because she knows who she island. She's not chasing validation from a partner, a boss, or society. She's building something, a business, a legacy, a movement that's so undeniably hers that people can't help but gravitate toward her. Um, I met someone like that at a tech expo. She was in her late 50 seconds, a former nurse who'd pivoted to designing medical devices for underserved communities. She wasn't there to network or impress, she was there to share her vision. Her presence was electric, not because she was loud or flashy, but because she was living for herself, her mission, her purpose. People flocked to her booth, drawn to her energy like moths to a flame. That's what it means to live like a star. You don't chase the spotlight, you are the spotlight. Here's the hard truth. Too many people live like planets, orbiting around someone else's Sunday. They let their worth be defined by a relationship, a job, or what society thinks they should be. I've seen it women who shrink themselves to fit into someone else's story, who dim their light to avoid making waves. That's not living, that's surviving. And I'm not here for survivors. I'm here for stars, for women who refuse to be anything less than the center of their own universe. When I launched Tesla, I wasn't trying to fit into the auto industry's mold. I built electric cars that were better, faster, and cooler than anything Detroit had ever dreamed of. I didn't ask for their approval, I created my own. You need to do the same. Stop trying to fit into someone else's narrative, write your own. So, how do you live like a star? First, you've got to define your own terms. What does success look like for you? Not for your family, your friends, or the world for you. When I started Neuralink, I didn't care if people thought brain machine interfaces were sci fi nonsense. I cared about solving a problem, merging human intelligence with AI to keep us ahead of the curve. What's your problem to solve? Maybe it's creating a community space for women to thrive. Maybe it's turning your passion for cooking into a business that feeds souls, not just stomachs. Maybe it's advocating for a cause that's been ignored too long. Whatever it is, make it yours. Define what success means to you, and don't let anyone else's definition override it. Your life, your rules. Second, stop seeking permission. I've never waited for someone to greenlight my ideas. When I wanted to build reusable rockets, I didn't ask the aerospace industry if it was okay, I just did it. You need to adopt that mindset. Stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to start that business, write that book, or chase that dream. You don't need a partner's approval, a boss's blessing, or society's nod. You've got decades of experience, wisdom, and instinct. That's your permission slip. Use it. I met a woman in her early 60 seconds who'd always wanted to be a painter, but spent years raising kids and working a safe job. One day, she said, screw it, and started painting. No art degree, no gallery connections, just raw passion. Her work wasn't perfect, but it was alive, and galleries started calling. She didn't wait for permission, she gave it to herself. That's what stars do. Third, create your own gravity. Stars don't just shine, they pull everything toward them. When you live with purpose, passion, and authenticity, you create a force that draws people in. I've seen this in my own life. When I'm all in on a project, whether it's landing a Falcon 9 or building the Cybertruck, people want to be part of it. They feel the energy, the momentum. You can do the same. Build a life that's so vibrant, so full of meaning that others can't help but want to be near you. Maybe it's the way you run your business with integrity. Maybe it's the way you inspire your community with your art. Maybe it's just the way you live boldly, unapologetically, fully. Whatever it is, make it so compelling that people are pulled into your orbit, not the other way around. Let's talk about the payoff. When you live like a star, you don't just attract attention, you command it. You become the kind of woman who doesn't need to chase anyone because the world is chasing you. I've seen it. I met a woman in her late 50 seconds who'd built a nonprofit to teach financial literacy to low income families. She wasn't trying to be a celebrity, she was just doing what mattered to her. But her passion, her clarity, her refusal to live for anyone else's approval made her a magnet. Donors wanted to fund her, volunteers wanted to join her, and I wanted to hear her story. That's what happens when you live like a star. You don't need to beg for respect, you earn it effortlessly because you're living for yourself. Here's the flip side. If you live like a planet, always orbiting someone else's sun, you'll never shine. You'll spend your life trying to please others, trying to fit in, trying to be what they want, and you'll lose yourself in the process. I've seen it, people who give up their dreams to keep others happy, who dim their light to avoid rocking the boat. That's not you. You're an older woman with a lifetime of experience, a heart full of fire, and a mind that's sharper than ever. You've got everything you need to be the center of your own universe. Don't give that power away. Here's a challenge. Today, do one thing that's just for you. Not for your partner, your kids, your boss, just for you. Maybe it's starting that project you've been dreaming about. Maybe it's saying no to something that doesn't serve you. Maybe it's just taking an hour to do something that makes your soul sing. I do this every day. When I'm buried in work, I carve out time to think, to dream, to focus on what matters to me. You need to do the same. Make yourself the priority because when you do, you become a star, a force that lights up the world. One final story. I met a woman in her 60 seconds who'd spent decades as a corporate executive, climbing the ladder, playing by the rules, but she was miserable. So she quit, moved to a small town, and opened a bookstore that doubled as a community hub. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, she was building a life that was hers. That bookstore became a magnet. People came from miles away, not just for books, but for her energy, her vision, her light. She wasn't orbiting anyone else's star, she was her own. And that's what made her unforgettable. So here's the deal, live like a star. Define your own terms, stop seeking permission, create your own gravity, be the center of your own universe, and watch the world fall into your orbit. You're not here to follow, you're here to lead. You're not here to dim your light, you're here to shine. So go out there, burn bright, and show the universe what a star looks like. The cosmos is waiting for you.